Hello, it's me again, Aoife Wilson, Senior Communications Developer at Larian Studios, and I am so glad you're here because now I can put the U and I in UI Designer. Oh my god, I can't even believe that I said that, and now I've really upset our guest because yes, you're back for another episode of Show and Yell where we talk to the amazing devs here at Larian Studios and find out all of the secrets about how they made BG3 and how they joined Larian in the first place and, you know, had amazing careers or are beginning amazing careers and everything in between. Sara, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good.
So Sara is an amazing junior UI designer here at Larian, and can you please, let's start off at the very most basic thing. Mm-hmm. Can you please explain to us what a UI designer is and what you do?
All right. Literally the other day, I mentioned to one of my senior colleagues that I was pondering this question,
It's a big one.
And then he just like laughs and goes, "Yeah, like let me know when you find out." Like 25 years in the industry. And then the other week I was trying to explain to my mom what I do because she's like, "Okay, just explain it to me like I'm 5. What is it day to day?" And I think she got like 10% of it maybe.
That's good, actually. Yeah, you know what? 10% will take it.
Yeah. We make the menus and the buttons and kind of the entire process of that, going from we sketch up like using gray boxes roughly where things are going to be on the UI, and then we make clickable interactable prototypes, sort of seeing how things flow, and then that sort of moves into still gray but kind of more colorful boxes, and then that turns at some point into art, and then we further down the line end up doing setup, which is basically doing the front end part. So we're not programming, but it's still like using a markup language, kind of like HTML, and we get to actually put those things on the screen.
Okay, so you're taking everything from very very early stages design right into like the final product. Okay, so taking it way back, as a little girl growing up in Hungary, did you always dream of being a UI designer?
I did. I don't think I was even aware that this was a job that people could do. And then even when I was made aware, I think I didn't really think that this was a thing that you could do in games specifically. No, I think I wanted to be a princess, and then for a very long time wanted to be a vet, and then for a bit I wanted to be a doctor, and then I realized that was not a good idea for me because it would have made me interact with people a lot. And
I get that. You're so real for that.
And then, so when I left high school, I first went to uni there in Hungary. I did English studies, and I thought I was going to become a translator.
Okay.
It was not something I had a lot of passion for, but I was like, oh, you know, I speak decent English. I'm sure I can do this for a living. And that was, you know, English, like linguistics and history and literature and stuff like that. And I could do like a year and a bit of it, and then I dropped out.
Can I tell you the one phrase I know in Hungarian? I guess you could try. Is that?
That was
yes.
pretty close, but I can spot the trick that somebody used to teach you that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a pretty common one.
I worked as a tour guide. Pretty soon, right after I dropped out.
A tour guide?
Yes, I did culinary walks for tourists in Budapest.
That's very cool.
And that was one of the phrases we would like sort of end it with. So yeah.
Okay,
but well done.
so when did from there how I mean that's culinary walks and tour guide and translation is a bit far removed from what you do now. So how did that happen?
Yes. So games for me weren't really a thing.
Did you play a lot of games growing up?
So my parents had the strong opinion and take that video games are for boys and video games make you violent. In their defense, their one experience was allowing my older brother to play Call of Duty because he convinced them that it was a suitable game for children.
Okay, I can see where the disconnect
They kind of walk in on him, like doing the things that you do in COD, and you know.
And that was their experience.
That was their experience. But then afterwards, I was still allowed to watch him play. I think it was Heroes of Might and Magic. I want to say 3.
Okay.
So I think that was sort of my first experience interfacing with games, and then I always wanted to, but again, just
you weren't really
wasn't the thing that happened for me. Okay. Yeah. And then for my 18th birthday, or was it? No, it was high school graduation. But I was 18. I got like a really good gaming laptop, and that's I kind of just felt like okay. So it was also the time period when I had my my high school exams. It was like the 6 weeks of like, you know, exam after exam after exam. And meanwhile, I am like speed running everything that I'm sort of like a Victorian child. I've been sitting on the outside, like looking in the window and like looking all the games. So I think the very first game I played was Portal.
That is a very good choice, to be fair.
And then I picked up Telltale's Wolf Among Us because I was very like, mainly I think the thing that really interested me about games was story. So I really wanted to play story-driven narrative games. So after that came Dishonored and The Witcher 3 and then the Mass Effect trilogy. Again, reminding you, 6 weeks.
Yeah, to be fair, like if you're going to have a crash course in gaming over 6 weeks, you are picking some really top tier premium stuff.
I do not know how I did as well on the exams as I did. Like, yeah, I don't think there was a lot of sleep to be had. But yeah, those are the ones I remember. So you can imagine my face like 6 years later. I'm having my first day at Larian, and I am wearing my Anne 7 Normandy hoodie. And my boss is just introducing me to all of the colleagues, and then one of them casually goes, "Oh, Mass Effect, I worked on that," and that's how Greg almost gave me a heart attack.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow, that's a real that must have been a real. I mean, we'll get to that eventually, obviously, because we're jumping forward a little bit. But what a cool moment!
Yeah, no, it really was.
So your exams went okay, despite staying up very late to play a lot of games and catch up on your gaming. You know, the blind spots that you missed. Then what?
And then I went to the English Studies Uni to do translation for a living. And at the time, I kind of thought like, okay, yeah, no, I can just have the passion on the side and do the tabletop games and the LARPs and the video games sort of in my spare time.
Did you get into tabletop stuff sort of separately to games? Or
yes,
had
very
you
early.
been in that before? Okay.
I've been playing tabletop games, and I've been going to LARPs since I was 12.
Are you a GM?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but fortunately not forever.
That's good. Yeah, you get.
I get.
That's ideal. How do you tell me your secrets? How does this happen?
I hang out with nerds. But yeah, so went to uni, and while I was at the uni, I also had this sort of tangent of, okay, maybe I'm gonna go become a pastry chef because I was really into baking. I've been doing that for years at that point. Really enjoyed it as a hobby, and I was like, yeah, okay, I maybe sort of kind of this thing is not for me. I'm going to look into baking. And then I started working sort of on the side in a couple of pastry shops, and fortunately realized that the early mornings just...
I love this because you're like, you've obviously, going and trying so many different things, and it's so cool. And then being like, no, I don't really like people, so I'm just going to try something else. No, I don't like the early starts, so I'm going to try something else. This is peak job, like career sort of pathfinding.
Yeah, now that you mention it, it's been pretty. And then dropped out of uni. I worked as a bartender as well as the tours and still like working in cake shops. And at the time, I had two of my friends were going to this English games design course in the UK. And I think it was honestly Brexit that did it for me, because it was sort of the next year was, I think, the last or the year before last when you could still come over and take the UK student loan as an EU student. Yeah. And I've always had this like utter fascination. Like I loved London. We came here for a lot of family holidays, and I always had this like dream of like, oh my god, it would be cool, like so cool to study here, like live here, or just And I think at the time it was very much like for a short period of my life. So I looked at those two friends, like living the dream, studying video games of all things at university, and doing it in the UK. I was like, I mean, if I'm ever gonna do this, now is kind of the last chance I have. So I put in an application, and then I waited, and continued with the bartending and the cakes and the tours, and it worked out. I got accepted. So
first of all, bartending, I think everyone should do it at least once. I love working at a bar. It's so much fun. Second of all, what was the course?
So it was a games design course at Brunel.
Okay.
Some of my friends did games design and creative writing. I was sort of flirting with that, but then I looked into just games design.
Okay.
And then I got accepted, and I moved here for the course.
Because I bet I can imagine from doing lots of TTRPG play and GMing and stuff as well that you do have a bit of a creative writing streak.
It's very, very funny. I dug out the personal statement that I put in for the application the other day, and it's like from that, it's very clear that I was going into uni with the expectation that I was going to be doing narrative design or like quest design or something like that. But I didn't want to do like the creative writing part of creative writing. Like, I think the bit that scared me off was like one of my friends mentioned like, oh yeah, no, we have to do like poetry and we have to like write things like that. I'm like, yeah,
and then show off like, or like read stuff out and stuff.
So I wasn't too keen on that, but sort of I guess more of the like the narrative design was something that interested me. And I got to do some of it at uni, but I think there's a pattern here, because also my time at uni was a little bit about like trying a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody was primarily there to design, which was also a bit of a point of conflict at times, because you throw together a group of people to work on a game and then everybody's here to be a designer.
Right, exactly.
Which is how I ended up developing my niche, which was UI.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so like when you're doing a game design, because had you not done any kind of coding or anything before this course at all? Wow.
Nope.
So you try a bit of everything in the huge umbrella that is game design, and you found UI to be your sort of particular interest?
Kind of, but I also tried, when I graduated, I wasn't 100% certain that I was going to be doing UI. I was also quite interested in production, and I also wouldn't have minded design, like system design or something like that. But yeah, no, the design course itself, which it was really good, structured in a way so that first year was sort of design foundations, getting like teaching people to work together, get used to group stuff, because obviously game dev is such a communal and like you can't really, you can do it alone, but
well, yeah, I mean, of course, but it's also, I mean, because I something similar. I did film and TV, and you sort of did a little bit of everything, and you sort of found you naturally gravitated towards one sort of discipline or another. But also, I feel like these industries, they move so fast that it's like, what programs did you use at the time, and was that still relevant by the time that you graduated?
We used a very, I guess, agnostic program called ClickTeam Studio. I cannot recommend it. The good thing about it is that it's very simple to get into. So you don't need any programming or coding, or it's very easy to just sit down and just make a cute little platformer. And then in second year we had engines as a module, which was we learned Unity.
Oh wow!
But I hear that now they switched to Unreal.
I can imagine that was going to be my next question. I'm sure.
I think literally the year after ours they switched to Unreal. So
it's kind of wild to think that you sort of join a course and then because I've never done any coding myself, but like thinking about it in those terms, it's like that's such a huge thing. How does one go from not knowing anything about it to graduating and knowing everything about it?
Great difficulty. But yeah, so when we were doing like group projects and game jams and things like that, there were people who were who had some experience before or were more adept at teaching themselves this sort of thing, that sort of gravitated into those sorts of roles. And then there were people who were pretty adamant that they're here to write for games, so they gravitated to those sorts of roles. And then nobody really wanted to do buttons. and also at the time, some people very close to me were just switching careers, getting into UI UX themselves. So I was very aware that was a thing that you could do, and sort of secondhand, kind of taking a lot of that sort of knowledge. And then I started teaching myself UI UX on the side. Kind of. It wasn't really. I think we had literally like one class on. Yep, that's there's buttons. Somebody needs to make them.
There we go. Well, what was it that you liked about it?
I think at first I really liked the more UX. Funnily enough, I like the idea of user research, despite not being keen on having to work with people. I don't know.
Yeah. Just something quite like.
Yeah, it was definitely. So I don't have a history of like studied art or something. So it wasn't the UI art side of things that I've come into it from. It was more the wireframing and the flows and figuring out what works for people.
Yeah, I can imagine it's like the satisfaction of finding positioning that works and sort of like problem solving. Actually, yeah, I was just about to say I really really like the problem solving aspect of UI UX. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's probably, it was bit circumstantial as well, with like nobody on the team is doing this. I guess I'm doing this now. It's something I can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Nightcat Notabot says, the stream where Aoife spills her guests' guts. Okay. Ugo7 says, Dr. Sara, the UI princess. There you go. Absolutely. And Ben, who's here in the studio, says, brew what? My partner went to Brunel. Chad is also asking if Sara has seen us on set.
I have not only seen us, I unfortunately touched us, and us.
What was the word you used?
Turgid.
Turgid. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wish I didn't, but apparently it's also like, I was told you can...
It's a feat of engineering is what it is.
Oh. No.
Okay, so...
I'm happy, I'm happy you're facing this way, I think. Yeah.
So, uni, graduation, what happened next?
Right, so I very anxiously and in panic mode spent the entirety of third year of uni applying to jobs.
As
I was I was sitting there. I definitely think my dissertation has suffered for it. I think when I tallied, I applied to 600 jobs.
Whoa! Wow, wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a lot of applications.
You were like, I am getting a job. Hell or high water.
I was so scared that I wouldn't. And I put in an application at Larian that had I think it was this very open internship application they had up for a very long time, and it was not even like anything specific. It's just anything you're interested in, just tick the box.
Yeah.
So I think I ticked the box for UI, and ticked the box for production, and I ticked the box for design. And I think this was in, I want to say I applied in November 2021. And then, never heard anything back.
Sure.
Which happened for...
They have a lot of applications.
Happened for the other,
599.
Yeah. But then a bit closer to graduation, I interviewed with a mobile games company.
Okay.
They had a studio back in Budapest, and looked like I was a good fit for economy design. So I was going to be diving into spreadsheets.
Yeah. Oh, so wow. So it was kind of like came down to a choice between going to Budapest or...
So yes, we had everything lined up. My partner and I moved back to Hungary. We adopted 2 cats. We had a nice little flat there, and like I was literally like pen hovering, almost signing for the job. And then a couple of weeks before that, I was on the other side of the globe. We were doing a little holiday of like, yay, we graduated, we survived uni. And then I get an email from Larian like, hey, yeah, you wanna come do an interview with us?
No way.
So I think I did an online interview, and then they're like, you wanna come and do an on-site interview? And then I came and did an on-site interview, and it was an internship for 6 months. So it came down to, am I gonna have a stable, if boring, job in Budapest where we already have the everything, or are we gonna upend our lives and come here for 6 months?
How long did you deliberate over that decision?
It was a couple of days, because I didn't really have, both Larian and the other company were like...
Oh my gosh. And so what sort of tipped you in that direction?
The fact that I had, I think at that point, like 500 or so hours in DOS 2 was...
Okay. Yep.
It wasn't, Larian... I don't think I ever dared to dream as big as going like, I'm going to work at Larian. I'm going to have my first job at Larian. But yeah, I loved the company. I loved the games they were making. Whereas the stable but slightly boring, am I going to balance spreadsheets for mobile games?
Fortune favors the bold, and it often works out. You take a chance, and
chance worked out.
So you signed up for 6 months initially.
Yes. So I joined almost exactly a year before. Really, actually, it's going to be my 3rd work anniversary on Friday.
I messaged you earlier today, and I saw the little 3-year celebration button beside your name. I was like, oh my god!
Yes, we're going out for pub lunch.
Should have got you a cake. I'm so sorry.
But yeah. Wow. So yeah, we once again upended our lives, moved everything back, cats and all, to the UK.
I was gonna ask about the cats.
Yes. Yes, cats moved. My partner also, so we...
You're like, oh yeah, also my partner, the cats, but yeah.
Yes. And then I started working at Larian.
Oh my goodness. That's wild. Like, I can't it's funny, isn't it, when you look back and so many parts of your life, you see this branching path and what could have been and when you're standing right there on the branch, you're like, there's no way to know which
the mobile game studio.
Yeah.
6 months later, it closed down in Budapest.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So you were like, well,
Yep.
absolutely vindication. Thank you
Yep,
so much.
absolutely.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
But it's so funny, isn't it, how things work out?
Yeah.
And I bet those 500 hours that you already had in DOS 2 probably tipped the scales in your favor a little bit as well.
I think so. To this day, sometimes my boss is just like leaning over and is like, Sarah, how did this work in DOS 2? Like,
Oh dang! Yeah. That's quite. Yeah, that would have been super helpful. So what was the job role? It was a 6-month internship. Was specifically for
UI.
Okay.
UI UX intern, I think. Yeah.
And what was your first day on the job like?
Well, my boss sat me down and told me to play the game for a week. Which, sounds pretty ideal, but oh boy, was it buggy.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Taking a lot of notes and stuff.
Yes, yeah. So that was, the actual assignment was to sort of evaluate the UI and the UX of the game and come back with problems and possible solutions.
And so at that stage, is the only software that you really need, is it just spreadsheets, or is there anything else like involved in that? Are you using it like a debug version, or?
Yeah, I was using the sort of internal build, the manager for that, and I guess that was pretty much the only tool.
Because I suppose the question is like, what do you think are like good qualities to have as a UI designer, and like sort of, because I mean, you've obviously had so much experience doing other things, and what do you think maybe experience doing other things, or specifically in UI design, that just you think has really helped you sort of flourish in that?
Adaptability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like
which you have exhibited in droves.
Yeah, there's like sometimes I joke that I don't even necessarily know what I'm going to be doing next week, but sometimes it's true for next day as well. And even though I only ever experienced BG3 as a project, no 2 weeks look the same. I don't think there are days when I'm that are like playing out the same way.
Which for some people would feel very wrong-footed like that. So as you say, being as someone who maybe enjoys, never knowing what's going to come next, or having every day be different.
I also think that this is probably Larian specific, because you can probably work for much more. I know for a fact that people in industry UI UX roles work in much more like narrowed scope. Like your job is gonna be like polishing that one backstabbing animation, and that's what you do, researching and whatever. But like I mentioned, because in this team we are so involved from everything, from the get-go to the finish. We move rapidly between design, art, and setup.
I was going to ask, like how does UI sort of sit in between other departments, and do you kind of like, what's your relationship with the other departments? How do you work alongside them or with them?
Lots of collaboration.
Yeah,
it's very, very, very interlocked. The team that we work with the most is system design. They are kind of our closest sibling or parent, I don't know. But yeah, we need to constantly talk to them, and also things like VFX or the sound team, or
Because do you kind of sit outside of? I mean, I guess there's different workflows that are all happening at the same time. Whereabouts does UI live? Like, is it kind of happening alongside gameplay being developed? Is it sort of like
yes?
Okay.
Yes, and also Larian is huge on iteration, and
it
just
is.
iterating the shit out of everything. So that sort of very quick responsiveness is also something that we have to provide. Like sometimes a feature doesn't exist this day, but it's gonna exist tomorrow. Where's the UI for it?
I think that's one of the, because it is actually, that word iteration comes up a lot when we talk to devs here as well. And I think, like, again, it's something that you don't get in a lot of places, I think, but it's something that people here that we've chatted to really thrive on, because it really lets you dig down and have the freedom to sort of try different things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also brings me to another good quality to have as a designer is just kill your babies. You're gonna have to kill so many babies.
Larian, you have to kill so many babies.
No, but seriously, like you can't get precious about it.
No, it's so true. I totally get it. Like, but it's and you know that's quite. I think it's a hard skill to learn, actually.
Oh, it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts because you're like, no, but I did this thing and I'm so proud of this thing and I want to keep this thing. But sometimes the thing just doesn't work in conjunction with all the other stuff that's going on.
It's even worse when somebody has a better idea and like you are then forced to sit there and go, yeah, this is much better. I still have to kill my baby.
I still got to kill the baby.
Yeah.
So what do you think are in your experience, what are the fundamentals of good UI design?
I guess specifically in games, one of the big things is that it's not the star of the show. You'll notice that there are not exactly a huge amount of best UI awards given out in games.
That's true.
You kind of start noticing UI when it doesn't work.
That's so interesting. Yes, I guess you're right.
Yeah, so it's there to get the job done. Hopefully provide lots of good little feedback.
It's kind of, I mean, it must be fun to have worked on BG3 specifically, because I feel like that's a game where the UI maybe more than others shines or is, you know, I hate to say more important than in other games, but it certainly is a huge part of the experience.
There's a lot of UIs.
Yeah, there's a lot of
BG3,
UI.
and
yeah.
it relies very heavily on UIs in a lot of ways. Yeah.
So like, so it's kind of, you want it to not stand out, not take up too much space, not be too loud, I guess. But it also needs to be inviting and
yes, absolutely,
and comfortable, I guess.
Yes, it needs to look good. It needs to work well. The player will have to know everything intuitively. Yeah.
So, iteration. You joined Larian a little bit after early access, 3 years. Wait, let's go backwards.
Yes, it was definitely yeah.
So when the 6 months were up, I assume they were like,
yes,
you want to stay?
When the 6 months were up, they asked if I wanted to stay on for another 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So it ended up being a full year of internship. And the first 6 months were a little bit more about design. I got to make a couple of designs which then got canned because you
were literally just out of uni as well, like, you know.
There was that too,
learning
yes.
a lot on
but
the
also,
job.
you know, we were trying to get a game out of the door. And then kind of more in the second half, I was doing much more of the actually getting into it, doing mostly the setup. So we were, I think altogether BG3 went through 4.5 visual styles.
Wow.
The UI, like if you look at, you know, very early screenshots, they look nothing like what ended up releasing. And so all of those UIs needed to be reskinned, basically, right? Like,
what were the decisions that led to them being reskinned? Just because they weren't gelling or they weren't like intuitive enough, or?
I would not know.
No, just like
you're gonna have to ask a senior about that.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's just super interesting to like sort of hear about like how UI sort of moves into like the bigger picture of the game, but like just sort of how you find your own sort of foot in it, because like it's your literal first job out of uni. Like you must have been learning a lot on the job, but like how did it feel like sort of being in this, you know, this fairly big project, like right out the door?
It was christening by fire.
Yep, I can imagine so.
Yeah, I was also organizing my wedding at the time.
Oh, you don't do things by half, do you?
In my defense, I thought I was gonna have like, you know, a comfortable spreadsheets job, and then I ended up making BG3. So
Yep, yeah, that'll do it. So did the second 6 months then turn into?
And then basically, I think right after we released, I got the offer for the junior position.
And so there, we mentioned about there being problem solving in UI. Is there a lot of creativity as well?
Some, but I think at least for me specifically, I think it's more about like, or that's at least where I find the joy. Like, there is creativity, which you can turn like into solutions for problems.
Yeah. Okay, all right. And early access happened, and then what was the job? I guess day to day after that. What did you end up doing like long term? What were you brought in to? I guess. What was your first long form project?
First long form project. I've worked on a proposal for a trade redesign. I think a lot of it ended up in one of the updates that trade eventually got.
Oh, yeah.
I've worked on the tooltips, the way you pin tooltips to inspect them on controller. That whole flow was something I worked on with, lots of mentoring from all the seniors. Like none of what I did was like 100% my own genius. It's very very collaborative.
Yes.
Like, was and still is. You're trying to get 7 people to agree on what goes where on the HUD. It's
yeah. I can see a lot of meetings, a lot of
meetings.
Did anything ever come down to like a vote or?
No. I think it all comes down to what my boss says at the end of the day. But I think it is very much true that we're just made to feel that all ideas are welcome.
Yeah, I think that's very much the vibe here. Yeah.
Anybody can propose anything or chip into anything or propose. Like I think I could propose a whole new feature. It doesn't guarantee that it gets made, but.
Can you tell us about any of the proposals that you did, like over the time? Anything that did get implemented?
Anything that did get implemented. I mean, like I said, God. I mean, I know that a lot of what I made it into the game because it was such a stark contrast. Like my first week, my boss mentioned like, "Oh yeah, no, I don't expect anything that you make to make it into the game. You're an intern." And then smash cut to like me like getting in there and actually implementing a lot of the UIs. But
victim of your own success. What about some of the I guess like unique rewards or challenges of the job that maybe people wouldn't initially recognize or necessarily think about?
I think some of what I really enjoy, the problem solving and having really difficult questions to answer. There is more than once we've had instances of like, how are we going to solve this? Oh, we're just going to slap some UI on it. I'm sure that we can just move this problem and make it a UI problem, which more UI is not always how you solve a problem.
I can imagine. Yeah, you don't want it to be like cumbersome or.
We've had this. So I was a little involved in playtesting as well. We did a lot of playtesting towards the release. We had in-house playtesting in all of the studios. My partner was running it in the UK, and he was the coordinator for it. So I got fairly involved with that, and also we're doing a lot of it UI UX specific as well. So I remember this one moment where I got to watch one of the testers. It was remember the grease trap in
Yes. Yeah.
So I got to watch them like get to that point, and then I think that's one of the very few instances where we give you a tutorial that just pops up and it doesn't go away until you've clicked understood. And I watched them lean forward, like I'm watching their mouse like move, reading the text. They're nodding. They're actually nodding. They're like, okay, yeah, I got this. And then they close the notification and then see that they've gotten into turn-based mode, and they immediately exit it because they wanted to know what was happening.
Oh no!
So yeah, more UI is not
always good.
Not always how you fix.
What about some? Have there been any times where UI has solved a problem or like any?
I mean, I would like to hope that the game
in development, sort of like where you're like, oh, we gotta fix this design, and actually here we go, here's a perfect solution.
Again, there must have been instances of that. It was a very intense and hectic time.
Okay, how about this then? Were there any? What was the the journey like for porting the UI to consoles? Was that must have been a little bit difficult?
It was definitely challenging. Started fairly late, I think, so it wasn't side by sides. I think one of the things that I bumped up against the most, one of the problems, is just there's not enough buttons on a controller. You've got like, you know, on KVM you can click on anything.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to do a free cursor.
It'd be quite tricky, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And so you have 12 buttons to work with. Good luck.
Yeah, you're assigning a lot to a single button.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's been a very fun and at times infuriating challenge to work with.
Was there a lot of testing on that as well? I imagine. Yeah.
Lots and lots of testing.
A lot of throwing controllers.
Frustration. I never threw any controllers. I personally never threw any.
Did the job adapt or change very much throughout BG3's development? Like, was it very different from the start to the end?
I mean, like I said, you know, first week, play the game and point out problems, maybe imagine some solutions. And then I guess last week before release was a lot of swearing and a lot of like getting elbow deep in the XAML files and making sure the margins were correct and everything was roughly where it was supposed to be on the screen.
Did you have to learn many more software disciplines after joining? Like,
I had to pick up the markup language that we're using. That was not something I had experience with before. I did use Figma, which is one of the tools for UI UX design before, so that was something I was comfortable with. I had to get a little more familiar with Adobe products. So motion design wasn't something I was super experienced with, but it is also part of UI animations.
How long does it kind of take you when you're like sort of doing that on the job? Like, how long do you think it took from picking up those to really feeling like, oh, I've got this? No,
I still don't feel like I've got this. And I'm only comforted by the fact that my senior colleagues also say that they don't necessarily feel like they got this. So
part of the job is really learning like the boundaries and how far you can push the software as well, right?
Yeah, I don't know how long it took. I definitely know that there's been moments where I look back at something I've done like half a year ago and go, oh, I can do this now either better or faster or both.
It's funny because when you're doing it every day, I bet you don't really notice how much better you're getting at it, because it's very, very, again, there's that word, iterative, right? Like you're building on it all of the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So we mentioned slightly that you were planning a wedding.
Yes.
And that you moved here with your partner.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about how it's particularly special to you, because you ended up getting married with some BG3 flavour?
Yes. We walked down the aisle to the BG3 soundtrack. We were both working at Larian, and we had this fun bit planned for the wedding, where instead of a first dance, we wanted to do sword fighting,
which is excellent, by the way.
Thank you. We didn't end up getting to actually do it at the wedding because of health issues, but we got.
Who would have won?
I would have won.
Obviously.
Obviously I got to beat my husband with swords. But that means that we basically spent all our lunch breaks in a nearby park beating each other with swords.
With swords, yes, of course. Were the police called at any point in time?
No, which I'm really surprised by.
I'd be kind of disappointed, to be honest. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to get into UI design? Is there, I guess there's no, everyone we speak to, there's no one clear path, obviously, yes. But are there certain things people can do, certain things people can pick up and learn, certain skills they can hone that would make their breaking into the industry a little bit easier?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess the most straightforward is play some games and just pay attention to what the UI, why the UI, how the UI works. Figure out whether you like it, whether you don't like it, but also I guess empathy is another super important skill when it comes to, I mean, yeah, because you're not just making a game for yourself.
True, yeah.
It's just because you think that something works, you're gonna have to get someone to actually click through that and figure out that absolutely doesn't. I guess, yeah, learning tools like Photoshop, Figma, super important. And I think making sort of clickable, interactable prototypes, especially if skinned with art, can really, really sell sort of your skills.
That makes sense.
I would say one piece of advice I heard very often as someone trying to get into the industry was to take an existing game and then make it better or improve its UI or fix its UI, make a case study out of it. A lot of seniors I've heard now in the industry talk about how they don't like this, because if you take an existing piece, it's very hard to tell what your input actually was.
Right, I got it. Yeah.
And instead, what they're just doing is just make up your own game.
Yeah.
Make up a game. It doesn't, obviously you don't have to design it or make it. Just have the game as a concept and then make UIs for it.
That makes sense. I suppose it's kind of like, well, if you're building on a pre-existing game, you're kind of trying to fix what isn't broken. Whereas if you're making something up, you can be like, these are my reasonings for the decisions that I made.
Yeah, so that's also there's just a lot of like communities that you can get involved in. Lots of Discord servers to join. I think a lot of the knowledge nowadays doesn't necessarily come from like a paid course or something like that. Yeah.
A lot of people are self-taught now, right? Like, because you can do that. I mean, obviously there are lots of courses and those are super helpful, but like all of the, well, not all of them, but many tools exist now that you can kind of become self-taught. You can work on at home. You don't have to spend lots of money like getting like kind of, I get professional training.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah.
But again, I learned so much more on the job than I ever did during those 3 years at uni. Just getting involved in game jams, I think, is a really good way of getting this sort of practice in, working with others, working as part of a team. And then you actually get something that got made and you made a UI for it. So that's useful. And also just come up with ideas for games, make UIs for them.
Do you find yourself doing that a lot still? Like kind of being like, or even just when you're playing stuff and you're like,
yes, absolutely. I'm absolutely unbearable to play games with because I'll like point out things and
like,
or so I'm told.
Would have done that differently. So we have about 15 minutes left, so we're going to switch to audience questions soon. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask Sara, write it in the comments and we will get to those in a little bit. But I mean, I want to know what you think some of the biggest misconceptions about being a UI designer are. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people sort of, well, first of all, maybe they don't fully understand what the job is, but like, is there something that you're like, oh, I hear this all the time and it's just not true about UI design?
I was going to say, I don't know how much of a thing UI design is in people's heads, because sometimes I still have to, like, people ask what I do, I say UI design and they just stare back at me like, completely blankly. So I think, I don't know if common misconceptions exist really, but...
Well, I would say, because, I mean, just listening to you speak, I would have thought it was quite maybe some, like, because you say you didn't want to deal with a lot of people, so I would have thought it was maybe a relatively solitary thing, but it sounds like it's actually way more collaborative than people think.
Yes, it is extremely collaborative, and again, one of the other skills that's kind of important to have is to be able to work as part of a team.
Yeah.
Communication skills.
Which can be a big one, and it can be a difficult one for a lot of people too, because it's like, you know, as you say, kill your darlings, kill your babies.
Yes.
That can be hard when you're like, no, I really need to get my point across and make them understand why I want this thing.
Yes. So that's a rough one. I guess maybe common misconception that we just make buttons or just draw buttons, or I don't know. And again, the job
way more than that. Yeah. So you mentioned playing other games and wanting to get in there and mess around with the UI. Has there been any games that you played recently where you're like, chef's kiss, that's really good, good design?
Not super recently, but I'm currently shaking like an anxious chihuahua for Hades 2.
Oh, I'm so excited for that game.
I absolutely adored the UI of that game. Was so gorgeous, and the flow, the everything.
Let me tell you how good the UI design of that game is. I played that game and I got through an entire run while in active labor. So that's... Yep.
Horrifying.
It's hard. No, but listen, it's up there with one of my highest achievements. I'm like literally.
Which god?
Literally, it was Ares. It was the shield with the Doom equipped. So it was just boing 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 boing.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a really cool one to smuggle into Two Truths, One Lie.
Totally. Yeah, actually, yeah, truth.
Wow.
Listen, I was lighting up that labor ward with my swears as to like getting through all those things. But yes, I'm very excited for Hades 2.
Yes.
It's going to be excellent. What any other games you can think of?
I've gone back to my roots, and I've been mostly playing tabletop games nowadays. Less digital
You're
ones.
in good company in this company if you really like TTRPGs.
Yes.
What games are you running right now?
I am running Changeling the Lost, which is fairies and horror, and I have just started running Demon the Fallen, which is what it sounds like. I like urban horror a lot.
Yes.
So the games that I play in are mostly also just that, World of Darkness, urban horror.
I said to you before the camera started rolling, but I say it again. Teach me your secrets as to get people together in a weekly setting to play TTRPGs.
Hang out with nerds.
What am I doing right now? What am I doing wrong? Okay, so we have some questions coming in. Slayer Seraph says, how was it like trying to replicate and reference the iconic older games BG1 and BG2 UI icons, pun intended, like Sleep, Rest, Magic Missile, Fireball, and so on?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of back and forth and like trying to, reference and stay true to that sort of pre-existing stuff, but also to make it ours and different.
For sure. Yeah.
The icons specifically mostly come from one of my incredibly talented artist colleagues. So I didn't do too much of that.
I can see those buttons in my sleep now. Like they're so iconic. Of course they are, because they're icons. They're iconic. It's weird.
People have it tattooed on them.
Yes, I know.
I've got a BG2 tattoo as well.
Do you?
Yes.
Can you show us?
It's down here, but it's the swords part.
Oh, it's so gorgeous. Yes.
But yeah, that's one of the icons that people have tattooed on themselves.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what you get with clean design. Tattoos inspired by it. Cinderella Mouse says, do you have to consider global differences with UI, like how some countries read right to left? That's a really good question. Is there some kind of localization for UI beyond text?
Localization for UI is mostly text, but it is absolutely something that we try keeping in mind every step of the way. I keep like Google Translate open, and I put it's mostly French and Russian that give us grief when it comes to, here is this button. It can be this big. It has to fit so much on it.
That's surprising, actually, because it's less right to left, left to right, and more like just how
length.
much
Yes.
you can. Okay.
Yeah. Oh god, spacing. Yes.
Ugo7 says, what was the most difficult part in designing the UI for a game with so many moving parts and complex menus as BG3? Also, what was the weirdest, most memorable thing from player feedback during early access? That's a good question.
Ooh, that is a good question. God, the most difficult part. I think you answered in the question. It's that all the parts are moving and everything is super interconnected, but has to work well with everything else. Again, back to the adaptability.
Yeah. Does that include the ability for players to customize the UI for themselves as well?
There was a design I worked on after release that unfortunately we didn't get time to implement. It's a mod that exists.
Oh, really?
Yes, you can sort of customize what shows when, so you have a more sort of open exploration. You hide the hotbar, hide the party line sort of thing.
Nice.
But yeah.
Okay. And so, weirdest, most memorable thing from player feedback? Do you get any of that?
Yes, we got tons of feedback from the UI, both KBM and controller. What was the weirdest, most memorable? This wasn't UI specific, but this is the thing that immediately pops in my mind. There was this one tester who picked wizard in character creation. This was one of the shorter tests, and they didn't cast a single spell. They just hit things with sticks.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, it can be done. I
Can be
guess
done.
you can do it if you want. Like
The stick wizard.
maybe should have gone with fighter, but hey, maybe it was a wizard that I don't know forgot their spell
Yeah,
book.
I'll never forget them. The stick wizard.
The stick wizard. We salute you, stick wizard. It must be fun though, or is it fun or is it weird? Seeing people modding the game and sort of like shifting stuff around and being like, no, I put that there just because.
Yeah, I think it's an equal part of both. Like sometimes I go, oh, that's so cool that you can do that in a mod, and I wish we could do that, but we can't do that because the important part about a mod is that it's
Yes.
optional.
Yes, that it's optional.
So yeah, I get the, oh yes, no, it's so cool that you did it like that. Unfortunately, I can't do it like this. I can't do it for everybody.
Or sometimes are you like, well, I didn't do that specifically for a reason, and you're going to find out why eventually.
That's also a very common experience, yes. But it's so good to see the players really getting in there and
it's just the endless inventiveness of it, and like seeing people just really dig in and make the game completely their own. It's really fun.
Yes, absolutely.
KM1604 says, can you give an example of a UI element specifically designed to teach a game mechanic to players who don't read the tutorials?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that's hard
like
to solve.
Like Stick Wizard, for example.
Yeah, it's hard to solve in UI. So that's where we try to work a lot with the teams that do the camera movement, sort of try and maybe then use a short cutscene to point something out, or rely on overhead text or like the little barks that characters give, or sometimes we use overhead elements, but they can be a little intrusive.
When your job is to think of everything, it's quite difficult, turns out, to think of everything ahead of time.
Yeah.
Are there any parts of BG3's design that you're particularly proud of, or that, you're like, if you were to put the game in front of someone who's never seen it before, there's a bit that you're like, this is really cool, like, check this out, this is something I'm really proud of?
Something I'm really proud of is that it works. that was not a given at any point.
Funky from the community team asks, how closely do you work with the audio team when building out UI? That's a good question.
Comes a little later in development. So yeah, there was plenty of that sort of towards the final push.
Okay. How does that, is it sort of, do you design buttons with a sound in mind for them, or like?
I think it's more like I design a button and then I wanted to make a sound, and then I yell over to the audio team that sit just across from me and
they do it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any button that you specifically were like, it makes this sound, please?
No, I don't think so. But I think one of my colleagues had tremendous fun with the the little fly out of the camp.
Yes.
The short rest camp thing. I remember them.
I do enjoy
making
that.
it like that's such a good interaction.
It's again what you said before, like the sort of thing where if it's just subtle, it's like almost people don't notice it. It's like it's just an extension of what they're already sort of thinking or hearing or feeling. It's like just super satisfying when you get it just right. VJ Amalia says, how challenging is designing UI in a digital-only game world? Is it harder now people no longer have manuals to refer to?
I mean, people still have manuals to refer to. It's just Wikipedia.
Yeah,
although that's
true.
Kind of the last thing you want is players stepping out to check how something works on Wiki.
Well, because I guess if you've done it right, then everything they need is right in front of them, right? Yeah. Save Scummer says, how much or often did you work with playtesters? How do you validate different designs? Good question.
Lots of playtesting. It was kind of a mix of testing for specific things, which is how we would validate the design. Is play it ourselves, show it to the team, show it to the wider team, putting it in the game, seeing how the playtesters interact with it, what are their thoughts and feelings.
How do you sort of like, not validate, but how do you kind of place feedback on a sort of scale where you're like, well, this is this person's experience and it's valid, but maybe not enough to change things, or if enough people come back to you with the same feedback, that's when you make a change?
Yes, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think that's what maybe video games UI might differ from other various sorts of UIs, where like if enough people, if enough users give you some sort of feedback, then you're very likely going to have to change that. Sometimes in video games, we decide against best practices or take away control or change things because ultimately we are making art as well as a commercial product.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask actually if there are different kind of principles to game design UI specifically that are different to other like other mediums, or I mean
yeah, I think this is like, yeah, we follow a lot of the same sort of feedback, accessibility, adaptability, same sort of, there's general guidelines that apply to games as well, but then sometimes you want to break those rules.
Well, you know what, I think we absolutely smashed through that, and now we're almost at time, and I have to say thank you so much. I learned so much about UI today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope it wasn't too scary. I hope it was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And thank you so much for coming and joining us, and thank you to everyone for asking questions. And yeah, can I come and play GGRPGs with you?
You're more than welcome to.
Yes, that's all I want. That's all I wanted from this interview. Thank you so much, and you're welcome back anytime if you'll be happy to come back and chat to us anytime.
Absolutely delighted to.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much to our wonderful community team as well. And if you enjoyed this, then follow us on all of our socials. It's Larian Studios pretty much everywhere apart from, well, you might be watching this on YouTube now, and it's Larian CFH for Channel from Hell. And we will see you next week. We're back with the returning Bernadette and her adventures as Dark Urgeron in Faerun. We're still in Grimforge, I believe. Yes, we are. I've got the thumbs up there. It's been a long week, but we're making progress and we're making terrible decisions. Please come make the terrible decisions for us. And then the week after that, we will be back with another special guest for another episode of Show and Yell. Until then, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. That was